Invitational Conference 1993. I'm Keith Rutledge. Thank you, Richard. All right, we're getting ready to kick it off. Thanks for coming. And this networking session we planned is sort of an informal kind of a thing. A lot of the people that have been coming to SEER over the last 3 years have asked for more time to get to know each other a little better without the pressures of having an exhibit to set up and without having 10,000 people from the public to have to answer questions for. So the next 4-hour session here, we're going to have a few people speaking about their services. We'll show some videotapes. There's also some live demonstrations of networking technologies in terms of electronic telecommunications. We're going to talk about electronic telecommuting. And the idea here is how can we save energy and reduce pollution with a zero-emission technology through telecommunications and computer technologies. And that's sort of the function here, as well as getting to know each other a lot better and spend some time seeing some of these people you might talk to on the phone and never really get to meet them in person. So people will be coming in and filtering in over the next few hours, and we'll be having a few people giving some keynotes. So as I start off today, I want to thank everybody for coming, and we were looking forward to a real exciting several days. We've got some excellent speakers lined up for you and some good seminars with really relevant topics, and I think it's going to be a wonderful weekend. I'm going to start it off with Larry Goldberg with Sequoia Technical Services, and Larry's going to be telling you about the world of online databases and some of the other services that Sequoia Technical offers. So how about Larry Goldberg?
Thanks a lot. It's nice to be in an anarchy here because we're not all that organized, and we're going to try to keep it informal. So I think the anarchy works best without schedules and so forth. But I will try to keep it to about 10 minutes, so at least I'll have time for other people. I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing to be the first off, because we're all going to be talking about different types of networking and networking capabilities. But what I'm going to talk about today is some things that our company is involved with, and I've met many of you, and I hope to meet more of you, the ones I don't know, later on this weekend. And we'll have a chance to show you some of the services we're doing at our little display area right here. We have a little niche, a little corner to talk about some of these things. What I'm going to say is kind of a flow of consciousness stuff, because there's a lot of topics to cover, but I'd be also glad to answer any questions as they come up, so please feel free to ask something if it comes to your attention. The issue that we're trying to address at Sequoia Technical, by the way, we're up in Eureka. We're part of this bioregion, and we consider ourselves all part of a larger community here. So we tie in with the Willits people and folks in the Bay Area and what have you. We're up in Eureka, and one of the problems that we have, and it's led us to where we are today, is that we would like to offer services to a large, geographically diverse community, but we have to cover in our business 20 counties. We provide services from Chico all the way up to Redding and Weed and points north in the North Valley. We cover from Crescent City down to Santa Rosa. And that's one of the blessings or curses, if you will, of having to do business in the North State and in rural California. Well, what this has led us to do is more and more of the work over the last 10 years we've been doing electronically. We find that it's so much easier to commute electronically than to commute by vehicle. And this is really one of the points that I'm trying to make in all of our efforts, is people say to me, what is telecommuting and what does electronic networking have to do with energy? It has everything to do with energy. I've been an energy activist for about 12, 15 years now. I helped fight Diablo Canyon, I helped get solar utility organized in Humboldt County, and I helped involve people in all kinds of energy awareness. And it struck me that when you really look at the net savings, the total energy savings, I can go into a business. We went into the Arcata Co-op, for example. If any of you have been up to Arcata, you know there's a big grocery store, and the Arcata Co-op, and we just did an $84,000 conversion of insulating the building, putting in all new T8 electronic lighting. We put in a heat recovery system to grab the heat off the compressors and pump it into the store. We built a solar solar wall that helps take solar heated air and also heat the store. And this whole project has a pretty impressive payback. It's about a 4-year payback, $20,000 a year savings. And by any measure, that would be considered significant. But when you look at the total BTU savings, the amount of oil equivalent that we're saving, it's a drop in the bucket, literally a drop in the bucket compared to a single person driving. When you look at how much energy we consume, the biggest single area of energy consumption is not in our homes, it's not in our businesses, it's in our vehicles. And many of you, if not all of you, are here today. We're talking about changing lifestyles. We're talking about changing the way we do business. The most important thing we could do is stop driving. And it's not a matter of just converting our vehicles to alternative fuels, which is good and important. And it's not a matter of getting solar online, which is good and important. But it's a matter of changing some of the ways we do business. And one of the important ways that we're trying to convince people is to stay home or stay in a local area close to home and not drive. So what's coming, and what you're going to be hearing about today through myself and a number of other speakers, is the kinds of services which are coming to areas like this. They're coming nationwide, which are going to change the way we live. And these services include distance learning, bringing the school to the student instead of the student having to go to the school, distance medical, bringing the doctor to your home instead of you going to the doctor, and distance shopping. Many of you are familiar with catalogs. A lot of you do catalog shopping right now. Well, this will all be available online as well. So the thing that we want to talk about, and I'm just the starting point, but a lot of people will be talking today, is about ways of using the technologies we have in appropriate fashion. And this is appropriate technology for our world. It may not be appropriate in, the third world. In some places it is, but for our world it's appropriate to get people to stop commuting, stop driving to the doctor, stop driving to school, and bring some of those services to people. Now, to give you an idea of some sources of information, I can't possibly touch on all the things, but I want to share resources, and that's what I think we're all about today, is this networking. One of the things that has really influenced my thinking is a book that you should all be reading, because I think you're all activists, you're all involved, and so I'm preaching to the converted, and I know that you're all thinking the same way. But there are a couple of books and some articles that I think are really worth reading. Those of you who know the name Alvin Toffler know about future shock that he wrote back in 1980, or actually 1970. He wrote in 1980 a book called The Third Wave, and many of you have heard or read about that, and it's an inspired piece of writing. But in 1990, he wrote a book that I think should become one of our Bibles, because it talks about the post-industrial society, which is what we are all involved in building. And in this book, it's called Power Shift. And Power Shift is about the transformation of society. And one of the elements, it's not the only element, but one of the incredibly important elements is the information age. We are all involved in information, whether it's education or technology or selling services. More and more, our economy is based on information. Using this information in a way that creates a sustainable and a viable community is what I think we're all about. So I realize not everything can be done electronically, but an incredible amount of stuff can be done electronically. Now, to put it into perspective that a lot of other folks understand in the general world, those of you who ever fly, sometimes take United Airlines or what have you, there's a popular magazine, Vis-a-Vis. It's in everyone's seat pocket in front. I was really impressed last year when Vis-a-Vis magazine had their main story on There's No Place Like Home, talking about a guy running a multi-million-dollar business right from his home with a computer and a phone line. This is really the future. It's not necessarily the only future, it's one of the futures that's coming for businesses and other opportunities around the world today, and I think this will have a tremendous impact on this area as well. Our company is involved, and I'm really trying to promote this idea of what I call teleports. Teleports is a concept that could revolutionize life in rural areas, not to mention change the way life is in urban areas as well. One of the biggest problems that is cited over and over again about living in cities is congestion and the time it takes to do anything. I grew up in New York City, so I know about congestion. We had it in the 60s. I moved to San Francisco, and I saw San Francisco change. My wife is from LA, and I go down there periodically, and LA is just unmanageable. And it just drives me crazy that so much of the frustration today is based on congestion and all of the trouble that's involved with getting from here to there. Well, people are here today from Caltrans, and one of the statistics Caltrans is putting forward is that in the near future, and I'm talking by the year 2000, it's projected that the average speed on the highways in urban California is going to be between 10 and 15 miles per hour. Now, the problem we've got with that is that you can't build, and they admit it, you cannot build enough highways to keep up with the demand. As the idea through the 60s and 70s was, let's build more highways, let's build more automated systems to get people through the highways faster. It's now a total failure. They've admitted it's a failure. It just doesn't work because you cannot build enough highways. In addition, even things like rideshare and van pooling and carpooling are not the success that they had hoped for. So one of the things that Caltrans, which I think is really going to be a leader in this, one of the things Caltrans is pushing, and Pac Bell is involved in this, and AT&T is involved in this, and more big companies are involved, is what they call pouring the electronic highway. The new future, as they're envisioning it, is an electronic superhighway, where more and more people can move around the state electronically without having to leave your area. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on in our business and also in our talks around the area is telecommuting. We're providing services to help people develop telecommuting programs, whether you're a home-based business, whether you're a small business that travels, or whether you're a corporate client. There are possibilities for telecommuting and developing telecommuting programs. Now, one of the other things that we're trying to develop is economic development. I mean, all of us that live up here and in this part of California know about the collapse of the timber industry, the changes in the economy, and this is happening nationwide. Well, one of the things that we're trying to do is create a new economy. And one aspect of a new economy is developing information-based services and products that are non-polluting, that don't require people to be creating giant factories and giant assembly lines, but also using knowledge and creating knowledge workers. Knowledge workers are what I see as the future for these areas. It's unfortunate today, and I heard a statistic that really blew my mind a couple weeks ago. In some of our rural areas, 80% of the people's income right now comes from marijuana. I mean, if you talk about some of the areas outside Mendocino, if you go to rural Mendocino, 80% of the economy is either pot-based or drug-related based economy. That, for one thing, is, it's not that it's criminal, it's not that it's legal or illegal, but it's stupid. It's stupid because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable in the long term for a lot of reasons, but the fact is it cannot continue that way indefinitely. But what can continue is some changes in using people's capabilities and creativity and knowledge to create products that are viable. And as an example, I work with a graphic artist right here in Willits who is sending his images electronically to Eureka, and he could just as easily send them to Japan. He could just as easily send them to New York. We have a client in Arcata who produces an automobile part that was patented and is now being used in Japan. He telecommutes electronically to Tokyo from Arcata. We have an architect living in Willow Creek, which is way up in the hills of Humboldt County, who is doing design work in Los Angeles from Willow Creek. He does beautiful architectural work, very high-end architect, charges top dollar. He only has to fly down to see his clients once or twice a year. Most everything he does is done electronically from his back porch or his house up in Willow Creek. He sends it electronically. So we talk about some of these things in our newsletters. We have newsletters that are available here. They're free. Help yourself to them. And one of the things that we also do that I'd like to just give a quick promotion is we are funded under a special program that you all paid for, so I want to thank you. One of the programs offered in the state is called a Telecommunications Education Trust Fund. In the mid-1980s, Pac Bell was found to be doing some illegal marketing practices. They were selling services to people who didn't speak English and didn't understand what these services were, and they were getting ripped off. And they were caught at it. And the California Public Utilities Commission made a ruling that they had to pay restitution, and they created a large fund that is now being used for public education. This fund has been in existence for 4 years, and this is the 5th year of program operation. We've been funded for 4 years of this program to go around rural areas of California teaching people about the new technologies and educating people about how not to be ripped off. So we have a whole series of work papers that we've developed. They're free. A lot of time and effort's gone into producing these, and we're trying to design these with you in mind. So we have a whole series here, and they range on everything from the internet and how to access the internet to looking at phone charges and how phone bills will affect you and the changes coming in the phone industry. We've even looked at pagers and cellular phones and all kinds of telecommunication technologies to be able to educate folks in what's available, how much to pay for things, and how not to be a stupid consumer, but be an educated consumer. So we want to do some consumer education. We do free workshops. We'll come to your business. We'll come to your area and give a talk. So all these things are available. So in closing, I'd like to see if anyone is interested in coming and visiting us. We have a little booth over here to show off some of the technologies. We're launching very shortly, within the next month, a North Coast Electronic Town, which is going to be an electronic community where people can call in and stay in touch with each other, do shopping online, be able to get services online, even eventually be able to see videos online electronically. We're going to be developing that for a 5-county region of this part of the state, and if you're interested in that, we have a little demonstration to show you of that as well. So it's a pleasure being here today. I think I'll pass it along to the next speaker, and if you have any questions, feel free to come up and see me later on. Thank you.
My name is Nick Lewis. I work for Pacific Bell. I've been around for a number of years. I don't take offense to having been accused and approved fault for something in London. I think it's great that Larry and company are getting an opportunity to spread the gospel word about telecommunications. Keep us in check. Keeping in line with some informality, don't ask any questions in those. What I hope to do is share with you just a couple new tools, awareness of a couple new tools. I'm not going to give you all the policy background and all the initiatives that Pacific Bell is aware of or participating in, but rather going to try to share with you just a couple tools that might make collaboration in your industry a little better. Just a word about collaboration as background. The point being that there's a motive, or there's some metrics that can be used in measuring the effectiveness of a communications tool to aid collaboration. Collaboration requires more than just rote exchange of information. It requires, as Michael Drake has said, building a shared mental model. So shared understanding of the problem, shared vision of the future. It also requires developing and sharing a sense of values so that consistency is built, otherwise you'll be antagonists. The result, the effect of this on choices of telecommunications equipment is that it requires more than just a single media in order to convey the values, to communicate a sense of rapport. It's important to do more than just talk on the phone and more than just exchange mail. I think it requires the use of multiple media. The combination of interpersonal communications and professional communications. Some structure to it, but then also it's important to share maybe less structured as well.
I think it's interesting to note that some of your documents are like the virtual reality, the original virtual reality. They're places where we develop threads and the reader traverses that thread of ideas. It's all in your mind, and it's a wonderful, wonderful virtual world. And some of us are looking at the demise of reading and writing as a loss of something very important. Also very important is that document-based collaboration enables automation to be used to support communication. With that, I want to move on to just a couple services that we offer and that are much bigger than us, offered worldwide, that promise to hopefully help a lot of people collaborate better. The first is ISDN. Maybe a show of hands. How many people have heard of ISDN? 2, 3, yeah, 4. ISDN is a very revolutionary and wonderful new technology. Just like the car. Well, hopefully it's much better than the car. Today, the wire from your phone into the central office carries analog information. It's current modulation according to the voice wave pattern. Inter-office, all that information is carried as a digital stream. There's an analog to digital converter here in the central office, what you call codec. Really great names. Okay. When we communicate with modems, we take the digital data out of our computer, use a modem to put it onto an analog signal, onto an analog waveform, goes in a central office switch, gets changed back to digital, and then through the network is communicated as digital information, only to be reconverted back to analog and then again back to digital on the other end. ISDN is an international standard for pushing the digital network down to the subscriber's home, so that no longer is the subscriber's loop analog. It becomes a digital loop. The analog to digital conversion takes place in the telephone, and the digital analog on the other end is in the telephone. The advantage, one of the advantages, is if you want to communicate in data, say from a PC to a file exchange or a shared screen conferencing package, you don't need to go through that conversion to analog and back. And the result is much greater bandwidth on that channel. Whereas the analog phone with a modem, you might get a 14.4 or 14.4 thousand bit per second throughput. With an ISDN line, you have 168,000 bits per second throughput. So not an order of magnitude, but I guess that is an order of magnitude. ISDN comes in 2 basic flavors. Uses the existing pair of wires to your home and It's sent as about 168 kilobits per second channel, which is divided into 3 sub-channels, 2 at 64 kilobits per second and 1 at 16 kilobits per second. They can all be used simultaneously. And one can be in use for data while the other is in use for voice. The D channel is used for both signaling, call management, and for data communications. Here's what it looks like. Instead of having a pair of wires go to your telephone, a pair of wires goes to a unit, usually the NT1 and power supply. Well, they might be built into one unit. But there's a unit, and then there's a telephone. There might be a wall wart plugged into the wall. And then you plug a telephone into it. And we've got some telephones here. As we go through, I'll just show you the telephones and show you gadgets. You're welcome to look at this stuff later as well. An ISDN telephone, not much different than a normal telephone. One difference is it has a data plug in the back. So that you plug a serial port between this and your computer, and then you use like a Hayes AT/DT command set, and your computer makes a phone call as though it were, or a data call as though it were connected to a modem, but in this case it's going over ISDN, and you can go at 56 or, because of limitations of the serial port, 38 forward. So here's an ISDN phone. So this would connect into what's called the NT1 and into the wall. There's another variation of the packaging, and this is called primary rate ISDN. And yes, the slide is warped. It's not in your head. You see B1 through B23. It's actually a 1.5 million bits per second channel, and you get 24 B channels, or 23 B channels in one signaling channel. So if you're running a telecommuting center, and you have customers all over or employees all over the community calling into you, rather than buying a bunch of primary rate interfaces, you might buy just a single, a bunch of basic rate. You might buy just a single primary rate interface. I have a book here with the cost of ISDN as offered by all the phone companies in the United States. So if any of you want to get an idea. In addition to dropping an ISDN telephone on the end, which you can plug a serial port into, you can also plug either an outboard or inboard terminal adapter, it's called. And in this way, your phone is able, or your computer is able to make a phone call, a data call. The inboard terminal adapters typically have a plug on the back for a voice connection as well, so that you plug your analog telephone into the back of your computer, and you make calls just as though it's a regular telephone, but really it's grabbing one of those B channels and making a voice call over a B channel. At the same time, you can use your communications program to make a call over the other B channel or a D channel. Within the network, this is the architecture. The switch that your phone connects to presently is connected to other switches with and together they form the voice network. And that's what's here called a circuit switch network. With ISDN, you use the same circuit switch network for data calls and for voice calls, but you additionally have the ability to do packet calls. And what that means is, whereas with a circuit switch call, you're dedicating that channel to a single connection, with a packet switch call, many connections share the same channel. And what happens is your packets, your keystrokes are put into packets and sent down that channel. And it might follow another packet that a different connection is sending. The advantage there is that you can make better use of that channel and spread the cost of that channel across various users. And actually, keystrokes, humans don't type very fast. So it makes a lot of sense to use a packet connection to the other, to the East Coast, because you really aren't sending that much data when you're just sitting there typing. You might type at a very slow rate, and you're paying for that full 64 kilobit channel all the way to New Jersey, whereas with packet, you only pay for those packets that you send. It's billed on a per packet basis. Here's a slightly more complex or additional configurations. This is showing how ISDNs can be used to bridge LANs, local area networks. In this case, an Ethernet or a TCP/IP LAN. You have remote stations that would like to, say, come into your corporate or community local area network. This is TCP/IP here, a local area network here, here, and here, and the packets are sent across the ISDN channel, and so that it appears as though these machines are directly on this network. And the throughput of ISDN at 64 kilobits per second, if you use one B channel, or you can put them both together and get 128 kilobits per second, really is sufficient to do screen sharing applications, to retrieve images, to retrieve limited compressed voice. I won't tell you that, or compressed video. I won't tell you that the video looks great on ISDN. Speaking of video, this would be the configuration to do a video conference over ISDN. What you do is you use a codec, a coder, decoder that takes the video signal, which normally occupies something like 4 million bits per second, and squashes it into 64 or 128 kilobits per second or 384. You buy whatever capacity you need, and you do what's called inverse multiplexing, taking multiple ISDN channels and dialing up the capacity you need. So for a small window on a workstation, a video conference can be quite satisfactory using a single B channel. And there are cards now that provide the codec function in a personal computer. But for a large screen like this, that would look quite unacceptable just because of the level of magnification. So you probably use at least 2 B channels and maybe up to 6 or so. Give you an idea how Pacific Bell sells ISDN. We have 2 flavors of ISDN which we sell. One is in the Centrex business, multiple line business offering, and the other is in a single line business offering. Sorry for the slide not being perfect. My photocopier decided to misbehave. You order a package depending on how you want to make use of the B channels. To tell you the truth, it doesn't make much sense to order ISDN if all you want to do is voice. So if you want 2 voice channels, you can actually put 2 telephones on one ISDN line and have 2 different telephone numbers. So it can be done, and in some situations it makes sense. It ranges from using both of using B1 for voice and not using B2, using D for signaling, all the way up to using both B channels for alternate voice data and the D channel for packet connections. The advantage there is that it's a multitasking telephone line. You can have one call on with, say, a voice connection to a remote party, have a data call to that remote party, have a shared screen package so that you're looking at the same document, and as I modify that document, you see it, and then use the D channel, say, to connect to a document server that's able to, that you're retrieving documents from and sharing with this distant party. We also sell a single line version, basically about $70, $80 installation and $28 a month. On up to maybe $40 a month for the more complex. Now I'm going to change modes a bit and tell you about a couple internet services that make ISDN a very valuable thing. The first is called the Wide Area Information Service. It's a public domain implementation of a standard for connecting library systems and connecting users to library systems. There are some 200 plus servers online. It's free. The interfaces for the Mac, the PC, the Sun, et cetera, are in the public domain. These are graphical user interfaces that enable you to specify a source, say the USGS collection of geographical data, or the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration's collection of atmospheric data, and then specify a search, say solar winds, and it will give you back a list of documents which hit in that database, and then you can click on a document that you think actually looks like it's the proper name, and it will fetch that document to your desk, and you can browse it. It's also accessible via electronic mail interface. If you have electronic mail, this is the address. If you don't, you should get electronic mail. Put it in. I have one slide. You aren't going to be able to read this, I don't imagine, but I wanted to be able to point to a typical waste interface. This is I believe, the Sun interface. Here's a list of documents that it hits. Here is the search string. Somebody has entered toxic metal and has specified a server to search against, and it has come back with a list of documents that have matched his query, and then if you click on that particular line, it'll fetch that document and you can browse it online. Those documents can contain images, can contain text, can contain rich text that has highlighting and italics, actually can contain voice. The architecture is capable of whatever, carrying whatever media. The next new internet tool I want to share with you is called the World Wide Web. It is a up-and-coming standard for performing distributed hypermedia over the internet. And what this means is I can write a document, in that document drop a hot link and point to someone else's document, or to a post on a bulletin board system, or to a waste database, or I can embed a query of a waste database as a hot button. I can also refer to net news postings, FTP files, or files located somewhere on the network, et cetera, So the point here is that I can write a document and send it to you in electronic mail, and that document might be, hey, look, Joe, I found some really great sources of information that might help you in this paper. First, I found a really great paper by so-and-so. You drop there's a hot link there, and the user can just press the button and get the copy of that paper. I don't know if any of you have used the internet. Right now, if you use FTP, File Transfer Protocol, it's quite cumbersome to get out there and grab a document and bring it back. It's even more cumbersome to search for documents Gopher is another standard that's getting out there for browsing documents on the internet. The World Wide Web gives you an ability to put together a web of information. A community such as yourself that want to collaborate could have a home document that is a directory of areas of research, and one person who manages the document that is the head of each of those areas of research, et cetera, et cetera. It's quite a powerful tool. It was developed, interestingly enough, by the high-energy physics community to help them collaborate. So I suggest that if you're interested in using electronic tools to collaborate, that you consider using ISDN to get onto the network and to get into your community access networks, and that you look at WASTE and the World Wide Web as applications which can help you do document-based collaboration. That's all I have at this point. Michael Seaman and Michael will speak next, would like to show a video now which describes a vision of the future which might take place, linking the networks, linking communities together, enabling telecommuting, etc.
This video is about 20 minutes long, and it was put together by Pac Bell at a conference that we had last April.
So, Dad, how was your dinner with Maddie?
It's tonight.
I think.
Yeah. 6 o'clock tonight.
See you later, honey.
Bye, Mom.
Hi, Des.
Hey, Michelle.
Got any muffins?
Blueberry or brown?
Blueberry.
Call Maddie Johnson.
Hello, this is Martha Johnson. Sorry I missed you, but won't you leave me a message? Please.
Hey, Maddie, it's me. I'm calling to confirm tonight, 6 o'clock at your place. Till later, sweetheart.
You can just wait, Mr. Desmond Elliott.
This is Michelle. Fighting. Well, is Hank okay? Well, then I should come to the principal's office? I'll be there as soon as I can.
Listen, where you taking Maddie tonight?
She's cooking dinner for me at her place.
Desmond, when are you going to actually take that woman out?
What are you talking about? I'll take her out.
This is Sarah.
Oh, Sarah, Michelle, are you still at home?
No, I'm at the work center. Well, there's been a problem with Hank at school.
I see.
It would help me a lot if I could
Work at home today.
Well, do what you need to do.
But you know what we're up against. I need to have those numbers first thing tomorrow morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Mrs. Johnson.
Oh. Hello, Dr. Alvarez.
Mrs. Johnson, I'm calling because there was something a little unusual in your EKG this morning.
What's wrong?
Probably nothing, but I'd like to see you at the clinic today, okay?
Sure. I'll be there.
Bye now.
Johnson. Maddie? Desmond. Instead of you cooking for me, I'm going to take you out to dinner tonight. That's right. You know that little restaurant you've been talking about over there in the valley? Well, tonight's the night. So, I'll pick you up at 6 o'clock. Have any problems, you just give me a call. Bye-bye, sweetheart.
Des?
What?
It's Maddie.
Oh, Maddie.
You know why I hate fighting? It's a sign of stupidity.
He started it. He was out of line. You can ask anyone who was there.
Hank, I don't care what he did. I care what you did. You got yourself suspended. That's what's out of line. I gotta log on at work. You've got a penalty assignment to do with the kid you fought with, right?
Right.
Doctor, could we get the mitral valve just a little clearer, please? Okay.
You know, Des, flowers would be nice.
Beg your pardon?
Women like flowers. Just a thought.
Perfect. Perfect. Just hold it there for a moment, please.
This looks nice. Oh, sure, I'll write it in the card. Looking forward to.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you, Doctor.
Almost all Americans came from somewhere else. In this exercise, you and your partner will find out about each other's origins. First, determine the country your partner's family came from.
I don't believe this. Look, let's just get this over with, all right? You're from Japan, right? China?
Hello?
Hi, Michelle. How's it going?
Fine. I've downloaded all the regional quarterlies and now I'm doing the corporate figures. So you should have everything you need by morning.
Call me if you need me. Don't work too late.
Thanks.
And he came here when?
1859. He came to work on the railroad. Hey, I got an idea. Look, check this out.
That's cool. If he was on that, he'd been here a year earlier. There it is. The HMS Balfour arrived New York, July 14th, 1882. That's the one Seaman was on.
So, that means that we were here before you were.
So?
So what do you have?
Let me see.
Instead of you cooking for me, I'm going to take you out to dinner tonight.
Tonight?
You know that little restaurant you've been talking about over there in the valley? Well, tonight's the night. So, I'll pick you up at 6 o'clock. If you have any problems, just give me a call.
Oh, my.
Bye-bye, sweetheart.
This looks nice. You through?
Mm-hmm. You?
Oh, afraid not. Can we go over it later, sweetie?
Sure. Mr. Baker, hi.
Hi, Hank.
Yeah, what's the kind of ice cream my mom really likes?
Just a sec. Des, chocolate pecan swirl. I'll hold a quart for you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, I better get going. I'll get that. Pharmacy.
Hello, Desmond.
Oh, Maddie. Caught me just in time. I'm on my way.
I'm afraid I can't go tonight, Des.
Uh-huh. You fixed something already, haven't you? Well, that's okay.
I had to go to the clinic today.
Are you all right, darling? Maddie, let me see you. Oh, darling. Maddie, let me come over tonight and fix dinner for you.
Oh, sweetheart.
I'm so glad you're here now.
Life isn't always easy, but technology can help make it better. Working together, we can bring this vision home in the 21st century.
And our roads really only have one problem, and that is that people use them. Lots of people. We've got maybe 30 million people, more than 30 million people in the state now, and we're projected to grow well beyond that, perhaps to 50 or 60 million within the next few decades. And it's already difficult to build sufficient new roads easily, cheaply, or in time to satisfy our current passion for single-occupant vehicle use. This task is going to get much harder in the future. Well, Caltrans' challenge is to ensure mobility for Californians while making the best use of the state's transportation system. And we think that to do this requires attention to demand as well as supply. Our transportation demand management program at Caltrans is concerned with people being informed about their mobility choices so they can select from a wide array of modes of transportation. And one of these modes is information transfer. Our department's vision for California's future says in part that transportation of information and services reduces the need for mobility of people and goods, and that California's increased population is accommodated in terms of its mobility while reducing congestion, improving air quality, and conserving energy. So with this vision in mind, we're pursuing a number of programs and projects that are aimed at learning how telecommunications can add value to our transportation system. We're doing this in partnership with other government agencies and with the private sector. We're conducting research projects and demonstrations that are being monitored and evaluated so we will know about the trip-making patterns associated with an expanded commitment to telecommunications technology. Telecommuting involves the work trip. That's a subset of all trips. And our inquiries into the strategic role of telecommunications for transportation demand is looking at the entire range of trip purposes. In addition to telecommuting, we're interested in distance learning, telemedicine, teleshopping, video conferencing, and any other applications of telecommunications technology that might influence transportation demand. Last April, Caltrans, Pacific Bell, and some others co-sponsored a conference on this very subject. And it was clear from the conference that the top policy people in government and the private sector are very interested in how telecommunications can enhance mobility. And the video that we just saw was developed for that conference. And as you saw, the video portrays a future for California wherein ordinary people obtain considerable mobility through or with the assistance of telecommunications. The deployment of telecommunications technology can help people use rail, transit, and roadways much more efficiently, can help them get work done in central offices or at remote work centers or in the home, or shop by phone, or collaborate on projects from a distance, or obtain medical or other services at home or at dispersed centers. The technology to bring this vision to life is really not the limiting factor. Some of you may have seen a campaign that AT&T is carrying on where they're already starting to market the electronic highway. It's the You Will campaign. Could you raise your hand if you've seen any of their commercials about that? For those of you that haven't seen it, it shows things like reading a book from 3,000 miles away, or tucking in your kid at the airport, your kid's at home in the crib with the nursemaid and you're at the airport on a business trip, or sending a fax from the beach. Well, instead of technology, the obstacles to establishing and using the electronic highways really have much more to do with public policy. There's a debate about the role of the public sector versus the role of the private sector. There have been other debates about who has the right technical standards. The phone companies have the switches, but the subscription TV companies have the widespread cable distribution systems, and different regulations govern the phone companies and the cable TV companies. Also, people have been reluctant to go first. The applications aren't available because the infrastructure isn't available, because the investors can't count on the users who are not purchasing applications because the infrastructure is not available, and so on and so on. Now, this is not a traditional area for my agency, an agency that used to be California's Department of Public Works. I'd like to overwhelm you with the depth and breadth of our experience on this subject, but I have to admit that I can't. Not everyone understands the fundamental concepts of telecommunications as a mode of transportation. The terminology is unclear to a lot of people, and the ultimate outcome of our efforts is really very murky. So we're starting with projects that people are maybe inclined to accept as possibly legitimate, such as telecommuting, and we'll work our way through to the telemedicine, teleshopping, and other teletrips. In part, we have to do this because our primary funding source for these efforts is the Federal Highway Administration, which we call the FHWA. They will only let us fund certain kinds of projects. Now, this might change given the Clinton-Gore administration's expectations for electronic highways. I'm optimistic that FHWA will become a proponent of telecommunications as transportation. Now, turning to our specific projects, our outlook at the moment is a little bit like that of the Starship Enterprise, to go where no transportation agency has ever gone before. Caltrans wants to set a good example with our internal operations. We're unwrapping a new policy that will encourage employee telecommuting. We are in the process of expanding teleconferencing at our district offices to complement the video conference facilities we already have in Sacramento, Los Angeles, and Oakland. We are conducting demonstrations of advanced transportation systems, including traveler information systems, smart cards, and telecommunications technology so that we can enhance the delivery of transportation services. We're conducting demonstrations of telecommuting centers that follow through from our participation with other state agencies in a very successful pilot home telecommuting project. And this year, we have an expanded project list that's going beyond telecommuting to also look at the distance learning and community-wide applications. Now, here's a little summary of our current statewide projects. One area is residential area-based telecommuting. Starting in 1992, Caltrans has been conducting research on the potential for neighborhood-scale work sites to reduce transportation demand. Our focus is on eliminating the vehicle trip through walking, biking, or very short, maybe 5 to 10-minute transit trips. The purpose is to test whether or not locating a generic office in or very near the residential areas for workers, if that'll have a significant positive benefit in terms of congestion relief and energy conservation and air quality, as well as for enhancing worker productivity and providing opportunities for business development. We have project locations that include San Diego County, the Sacramento metropolitan area suburbs of Auburn, Roseville, Grass Valley, and Citrus Heights, and the cities of Highland, Modesto, and Santa Cruz, and maybe somewhere else. We're trying to very carefully match the office siting with the needs of the employers and their employees who live nearby. Now, our concept is really very different from the sub-regional centers that are intended to reduce vehicle miles of travel. And it's also different from the concept of satellite work centers that are very closely identified with individual employers. The second area of projects is in the mobility infrastructure. We have a number of projects with cities that are planning or considering improved telecommunications for their community. Modesto has decided to pursue fiber optics as part of its municipal economic development strategy. And they're partnering with us initially by way of considering a telecommuting center. The City of Davis has established a very ambitious project to interlink the residences, the workplaces, services, schools, and city government over the internet in a community-wide communications network. Caltrans is co-funding the coordination of this effort, which is going to be conducted through the UC campus, which is a very significant local employer. UC Davis will also be monitoring the results. We're also contracting with the Santa Cruz Redevelopment Agency on the feasibility of an improved telecommunications infrastructure as the city rebuilds from the Loma Prieta earthquake. Next is distance learning. Starting this year, Caltrans is looking at the trip making associated with distance learning. We have an agreement with the California community colleges to explore the feasibility of distance learning, particularly as it might be related to our concept of residential area-based offices. And that's because so many of the community colleges are located in or very close to residential areas. The Davis Unified School District is a partner in the community network project I just mentioned. They're going to help us learn if the trip back to your kid's school to get the homework assignment can be accomplished through email. Distance learning is important not only with respect to school trips, but also involves trips associated with job training and retraining, which is particularly important as we go through defense conversion. The last area is workplace and workforce trends. Through a partnership with the San Bernardino Associated Governments, Caltrans is embarking on a project to consider trends in the Southern California workforce and the workplaces of the region's employers. Now, most central offices are underutilized to a great extent. Work days, work weeks, and work years are subsets of weeks, days, and years. Workers are often away from their desk for legitimate reasons. Sometimes they get sick, sometimes they take vacations. And the end result is the infrastructure necessary to support these underutilized commerce centers is really very large and costly relative to the usage. And besides that, corporations are currently downsizing or restructuring so that they can remain competitive. These factors really do not produce a desire on the part of the employers to lease additional part-time office space for suburban employees or for them to buy equipment for their employees to telecommute from home. So perhaps the answers lie in completely rethinking the central offices themselves, particularly since the employees already live very long distances from their employment sites. Our project is going to be asking the regional employers to evaluate this concept for us, and we hope to determine if there are benefits for commute-related traffic congestion. At the April conference that I mentioned, Phil Quigley, who is Pac Bell's CEO, suggested that California is moving from being the Golden State to being the broadband state. And he said that Pac Bell will have an all-digital network by 1997 that will help support the deployment of a full-service broadband infrastructure in California by the year 2015. He likened the establishment of that infrastructure to the Interstate Highway Project. It takes many years to complete, but we can derive benefits while it's being built. Bill Dunkel, who was one of the conference speakers, suggested that the year 2015 is actually a bit modest, and he estimates a $3 trillion market opportunity awaits the business activity generated by the implementation. Now, as a planner, I think that the year 2015 is just around the bend. And if Dunkel is right about the potential benefit to the state's economy, then we are in for some changes of very major proportions. Now, clearly, the pace of change is going to be determined by the deployment of the infrastructure. We're hoping that our research and demonstration projects will point us in the right direction so the transportation system can rise to the occasion. We've enlarged our interpretation of mobility to include telecommunications, and we're now looking at the strategic value of the electronic highways with respect to transportation demand. In closing, I'd like to share with you some documents. You can obtain that video and a little brochure that goes with it directly from Pac Bell, and I've got their mailing address. If any of you want to come meet with me after our session, I'd be happy to provide that for you. They also produced a conference summary from that April conference, and I would commend this to you for your required reading list. You can also obtain this through Pac Bell. In my office, one of our projects that we completed last year was a promotional thing we did with the CEOs, the captains of industry, whose employees were likely to be knowledge workers. If they read this document and tore off a little sheet in the back, then we would send them this handy-dandy guide on how to set up a telecommuting program at your office. I can provide copies of these documents if you'd like to contact me. Just talk to me afterwards. I'd be happy to share that with you. Lastly, I'd like to tease you a little bit because I know so many people are over the education thing, and some of you were kind enough to stay here. Another one of the projects that we're working on in my office is a transportation demand management curriculum that we are doing through the California Department of Education. This is a way to reach the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools throughout the California public school system, a total of about 5 million people who, when they grow up to be adults, will hopefully be more responsible users of the transportation system than the current generation of adults. We're about to embark on that program, and I'd be happy to share information with you about that after this session. So I'd like to thank you very much for your patience and turn it back over to Larry.